Hello, I'm just waiting for people to turn up before I get going. Okay, I film on TikTok and YouTube at the same time. They're saved on YouTube. So, hello, Anna. You're the first one on here. I'm just waiting for people to turn up. So, before we get going, what's I going to say? Oh, yeah. While we're waiting, I'd love to know where you're from, how old your kids are, and or are you new? So you can answer one or all of those questions. So where are you from? How old are your kids? And are you new here to my lives? I'm on here every day. So okay, someone's handle was no. I think I would have seen that before. Are you new here? What is your brother? Yes. I made a funny joke yesterday. Someone was saying they called it was my son's expecting a baby soon, and the other parents, her parents, called the little baby Nugget, and I said that must be their middle name. The middle name of the baby, the first name is Chicken Nuggets. Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. Okay, Ontario, 4.5-year-old girl and new baby boy coming in 3 weeks. Love watching your lives. Excellent. Thank you so much, Leanne. Leanne, I haven't seen it spelled that way before. Okay. Do you know, my name is Lisa, and growing up, there was tons of Lisas. It was really popular name back in the 60s. And all of us were Lisa Marie. For some reason, it was every Lisa her middle name was Marie. I think I met one who wasn't Marie. But okay, so how many people have we got? Oh, we've only got 9 people so far. Wow. Okay, I'm not usually on it this time, so I never know. Anyway, I usually wait till I get about 100, but I'll wait about 30 more seconds before we get going. Anyway, I'd love to know where you're from, how old your kids are, and are you new here? You can answer one or all 3 of those questions. So the biggest live I ever had, in one live, I had 26,000 people. And I figured, it was one of my first lives ever too. I didn't know what I was doing. Anyway, but I figured someone big must have shared it. But anyway, it was funny. I haven't had it that big. Usually they're like 2,000 or 3,000 per live, but it was just struck me as so funny. 26,000 people were watching me live. And I was brand new to it. Anyway, it's funny. Okay, so let's just get going with parenting questions. If you have any, please ask, and I'll do my best to answer them. Also, I have a whole bunch of stuff that I just love to talk about. So if I don't get a lot of questions, I'll just start talking. Sweden, 3 kids, 12 to, oh my, big split, 12, 2.5, and 9 months. So were you waiting for the oldest to become a babysitter before you had the other ones? I've actually known people who've done that. They did huge splits in ages so they'd have a babysitter. Australia, first baby on the way, never stepped foot in the live before. Oh, welcome, Brandon. My kids were born in Australia, and I was there for about 20 years. So we're all Aussie. My son was born in Sydney. My daughter was in Brisbane, and we spent most of our time in Brisbane. So I love Australia. Well, I'm half Australian too. We only came back, I'm here in Vancouver now in Canada. We came back because my mother was very elderly. She's since passed, but she was elderly and not well. So that's the only reason we left Australia. Okay. Okay. Did I already read this? Wisconsin, first time? I think I already read that. 7 months pregnant, first time. My daughter-in-law is 7 months pregnant. Okay, so parenting questions. Just ask away. He no, just to break up from the father from the 12-year-old. Oh, okay, yeah. So it's sort of a split family. Had one with one guy, and then, yeah, that's very common too. A lot of guys have a couple different families. They'll have all 30 in their 30s, and then they'll have little ones. And I'm like, gee, I think there was probably a couple wives there. Okay, so parenting questions. By the way, would you like more? I just generally answer parenting questions here. People ask me questions because it's a Q&A, right? That's why I answer questions. But would you want me to talk more about why I believe in what I do, why I ignore tantrums, all the philosophy behind what I believe leadership to be? I think leadership is everything with parenting. And I read something today. It wasn't even about parenting, but it was talking about leadership and how important it is. I don't think I'll be able to find it. Oh yeah, it was Tony Robbins was talking about it. And he said, leaders know how to change other people's states. So states of mind, states of emotions. So you inspire, and I said, you inspire your kids to make good decisions. That is how I view parenting. As a leader, you inspire your children to make good decisions. You're not telling them what to do all the time. That's ridiculous. I would never want to parent that way. But yeah, you are inspiring them to make good choices. I used to tell my kids, if you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of that because I'm your mother and that's my job. So I was always inspiring them to make good decisions. And I really never had to discipline them. They just understood there's a consequence to everything, good and bad. I made sure of that. I made sure they understood that. But when they were little, they were really tiny and they got that. They knew that if they were ever punished and they, I took TV away for something, they would apologize to me because they understood they did that. It wasn't my fault they had no TV. It was because of them. They didn't have any sense of entitlement. They were accountable. They understood that everything they do and say and act, everything has a consequence. They understood that from a really little age. So anyway, that's how I look at parenting. You want to be friends with your kids for sure. Okay, how can I teach my kids not to interrupt? It's a learned behavior, so it means you would have allowed it in the past. My kids learned that I was with them all the time, so when I was talking on the phone or talking to a friend, there's no way they would have interrupted. I would have said, that's very rude. If you do, there'll be a consequence. Okay, when they're really little, it's hard to teach them that when they're toddlers, but they learned pretty quick. They knew that when mom was talking to someone, don't interrupt. So there was a consequence. There's a consequence for everything. That's how they learn. When they're under the age of 3, it's not about words or consequences so much. It is, but it's about consistent corrective actions right in the moment. So there's not a lot you can do when they interrupt when they're really tiny. But when they're 3 and over, if my kids had interrupted me, I just would have said, we'll discuss this later. And they would have gone, whoops. So yeah, they understand that there's a consequence for everything. Good, bad, and ugly, right? A lot of adults could learn that there wouldn't be any self-entitlement. I have a whole bunch of stuff I talk about a lot, but one thing I really believe in is there is this old-fashioned style of parenting called the authority style. When it was my way or the highway, I'm your parent and you listen to me. Not a bad way to parent, because the only trouble that really had was the teens would rebel. They'd find their power. They didn't want that, administrator, that kind of person in there. They didn't want to be told what to do all the time. But they come out the other end, strong individuals, respecting their parents and appreciating what they did for them. The new style of parenting, which has been in for about 30 years now, I've seen it happen, and I predicted it all, of course. I call it the pleaser parent style. It's when you try and make everything easy for your kids. You make excuses for them. They're not accountable for anything they do. You're discussing all their big feelings, big emotions, and as every single feeling, like every fart has to be acknowledged and validated, and it's just ridiculous. So you're not doing them any favor. You're raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues, or as Bill Maher calls them, wimps. He said, we're raising a whole generation of wimps. They're very weak. They never respect their parents. They wipe their feet on you. They treat you like a dish rag. They come out the other end and they're very self-entitled and they have no accountability. That's that pleaser style parent that's so popular. I don't do either one of those, but if you're going to err on either side, do the authority style for sure. It raises better individuals. So you don't want those self-entitled, you don't want your kids to be adults and they're like this, you didn't validate my feelings. I'm just a bus driver lady. It's just ridiculous. So anyway, there you go. I hated my father's authoritarian style, but I've been a very successful adult. Thankful now. Yeah, it always comes around. If the pleaser parent style, they never get respect. Their kids wipe their feet on them. They live with them forever, asking them for money. Expecting everything to be made easy for them. Their parents are going into, I've even seen it where, the DUI, sometimes I'll watch those videos where the cops are catching someone for drunk driving. Call my daddy, call my daddy. No freaking way would my kids want me turning up, I'll tell you. I'd be putting the handcuffs on them. So, it's a self-entitlement. It's sick. It is an illness. You're raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. I believe it's contributed to the drug problem and certainly the mental health issue problem. We're in an epidemic right now with that. So yeah, they're just such wimps. They have no fortitude, I'm exaggerating. Yeah, I am. But anyway, I'm getting my point across here. Okay. Oh my God, my son's dad trying to do everything for him. I hate that. He doesn't get it. He's hindering. Okay, we'll just have the dad. Are you separated or are you together? By the way, you're not doing your kids any favor. You're actually really not setting them up for life at all. Whenever my kids would come up against something difficult in life, maybe some kid was being mean to them or something, I would talk to them at home and guide them on how to deal with it themselves. There's no way I would go in and save the day. No way. I made sure our home life was wonderful, happy, loving, and all that. But I wanted them to be prepared for life. I never tried to change the road of life for them. I tried to change them for the road of life. Okay, don't change the world for your children. Change your children for the world. Set them up so that they can adapt to the real world. Otherwise, they are in for quite the shock. Oh, you're together. Yeah, well, okay. Yeah. If you want to hire me, I could talk to your husband and discuss it with him. But lots of people have said this to me. How do we make chores fun? You even want to make chores fun? Don't you want your children to learn that not everything's fun? That actually they have to do some hard things in life? Do you not want that? Why would you want to make chores fun? Do you get that? Does that make sense? Like my kids, they were tiny and they understood you got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. Like they would never have asked to watch TV until they'd done their chores. Like I would have just said, oh, I watch TV, sure, as soon as you've done your chores. And they would have got, oh, sorry. And they would have raced around doing them. They had very minimal chores, especially when they started at 3 years old. But I'm kind of a minimalist. I'm very fussy and organized. So they only had like 5 toys to put away because I did a toy rotation system. So I made things easy to do. If you have a cluttered, unorganized home, it's kind of ridiculous to ask your kids to clean up. I think it's unfair. I would like to hire you. Is this possible? Yeah. Oh, I didn't even mention this. If you go on the link above, everything I do is up there. You can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. Coaching is all done on Zoom. So about 1 hour per week is how we do it. I don't quite know what you're talking about there. Sorry. A grown up, right response? Oh, no, no, no. I don't want to get into that. Because I don't have enough information. My gut reaction is no, I wouldn't have done that. But I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. So if you want me to work with you on things that like something that's a little bit more long and involved, that would be coaching. Because I can only sort of answer quick questions in here. Okay. 5 or 3-year-old spits when mad. What can we do? You get my behavior board. It's completely free. And you put on the behavior board, their rule is no spitting. And whenever they spit, there's a consequence. There's always 2 consequences. The first one is a positive action. So if they spit, you say, okay, you spit. Let's go to the behavior board. You always refer back to that behavior board. Say, remember your rule was no spitting. You spit. Now you have to help me with a chore for 10 minutes or something. Have them help you do, I don't know, whatever, any chore. If they won't do that, or if they're difficult and just put their foot down, I'm not doing that, say fine, then 24-hour media blackout. The second discipline or the consequence is a negative deprivation. You take something away. So they won't help you with the dishwasher, say that's fine, you don't have to. 24-hour media blackout starts now. You don't go back on that. Once you set it, it has to happen. They're little, at 3 years old, you might just say, okay, no TV tonight, no iPad tonight. Okay, and you cannot go back on that. They might even run and empty out the dishwasher. Say, too late, you're still not getting the TV tonight. See, once you set it, you have to do it. If they're difficult with that first discipline, first consequence, then you resort to the second one. They learn. It's going to get ugly before it gets pretty, though. You got to be willing to go through the storm to get to the rainbow. I teach leadership. If you want to be a leader, you have to be willing to go through the storm. Oftentimes, parents will hire me, especially with teenagers are my favorite age. That's my specialty. They'll hire me with teenagers, and they'll say, are you ready to go through the storm? Because we're going to. And we're going to make sure that we're not going to agitate the teenager either. We got to be very careful with that. It's their own emotional storm they're going to go through. So love teenagers. When you get mutual respect with teenagers, they're fantastic. If you don't have mutual respect, it can be a freaking nightmare. Was anyone here yesterday? My son made an appearance on my live yesterday. Was anyone here for that? I would never have done that to my daughter. She was there too. But yeah, I was helping my son. We were all helping my son move. And I just did like maybe 20 minutes. That's all I had time for between what we were doing. Ignoring tantrums works so well. Thank you for that tip. Yeah, that's a very controversial tip. A lot of people hate me for that. And I love that. You know that. Because I'm shaking things up. So yeah, you got to ignore tantrums. Absolutely 100%. You ignore the crazy, reward the calm. If you want me to tell the swing story, I will. It explains perfectly what you do with a tantrum and what you don't do. But anyway, If you're interested, you can. I tell it every day, so I don't really want to tell it. I don't want to tell it unless if you've already heard it before. My favorite story, my best story is the pool story. Second is the swing story. The mall story is okay. You want to hear the swing story? Okay, I'll tell the swing story. This was true story. My son was 2 years old, and I took him to the park. And there was another mom there. She was new to the neighborhood, so we were introducing ourselves, and we both had 2-year-old boys. So we put them on the 2 swings that were there, and they both go, and they wanted the other swing. And we're trying to chat, right? Let's just switch the swings. What do we care, right? Let's just switch them over. They both started having a tantrum. You know, they're just nuts, right? Toddlers are crazy. I want to hear the pool. Yeah, the pool story is the best. I'll tell that after this. I might put a question in there. Anyway, so this is the difference in what you do with a tantrum and what you don't do. So actually, I'll do it reverse. I'll do her first. This is the popular, the please your parent style method, okay? The one that's so popular right now, and it's absolute garbage. Anyway, so she took her little boy over. I've never told it backwards before. She took her little boy over to the bench. She's sitting there, and for about 20 minutes, he's tantruming while she's talking to him. Give mommy a hug. You know you shouldn't have done that. She's doing the therapy session. She's feeding it. Any attention is tantrum food. She's feeding it, feeding it, feeding it. Went on for about 20 minutes. Finally, it stopped, and I'm watching all this. You'll understand why. Anyway, so finally, 20 minutes later, he stops tantruming, and he gets the hiccup cries, you know, like that. He's trying to come out. He's coming out of it. But no, would she let that happen? No way. She decides to give him a further therapy session. Now, if you just stop that early, and she's going on, she's berating him for everything he did wrong in those 20 minutes. She's berating him for it. So 30 minutes of hell. I guess they finally went back on the swing. I don't know. Anyway, that was how you don't do it. So that's the trend right now. The pleaser parent style. That's exactly what they do. It drives me freaking nuts because it's a disaster. Anyway, this is what I did with my son. And he's 34 now. He was 2, so it was a while ago. Anyway. Times change, but people don't. So anyway, I bring him over to the bench, and he went to run back for the swing. I put my arm out really quickly. Didn't let him go back. Now, I'm not looking at him or talking to him. There's no freaking way I'm going to give him any attention. He knew me. He knew when my arm went out, he wasn't getting back to that swing. He just sat back and had a tantrum. He only had it for about 2 minutes because he was starting to put it together. He knew he knew me. He was figuring this all out. So he was only 2. Anyway, so he only had about a 2-minute tantrum. And then when he finished tantruming, I said, y'all done? Okay, let's go back on the swing. And he went on the swing, having a great time. And the whole time he's swinging, I'm trying not to pretend, I'm trying to pretend I'm not watching her, but I'm watching the disaster on the other bench. Now, what did her kid learn? Her kid, not only is she feeding the tantrum, because once they're in that zone, the more you talk to them, the more they get hyped up. It's just the way it is. And also, when he's finished a tantrum, he learned that I'm going to get punished even more when I don't have a tantrum. So my son learned that as soon as I stop acting crazy and go into the calm mode, like mom's modeling calm behavior, I didn't look at him or talk to him, not once, then I get rewarded. I get back on the swing. I'm not rewarding the tantrum. I'm rewarding the calm behavior. So I ignore the crazy. I reward the calm. They learn really quickly. When you act like that, when you're ignoring that tantrum and then you reward the calm afterwards, it doesn't have to be a swing. It can just be reading a book or something. There, you are minimizing tantrums in duration, frequency, and intensity. Okay, that kid that was 32 years ago. He's probably still having tantrums. But anyway, do you see the difference in how you handle a tantrum? Yeah, which kid was happier? Which mom was happier? Which would you rather be? Okay, I'll answer a couple questions, then I'm going to do the pool story. That absolutely explains how I deal with kids. 100%. It explains how I consider myself a leader for children, because this was something inspire your kids to make good decisions. That is the epitome of a leader. Inspire your children to make good decisions. You're not telling them what to do. You're inspiring them to make good decisions. I used to say you guide them to make good choices, but I reworded it today. I thought that was better. Okay. I'll answer one question, then I'll go back to the pool story. Okay, I just always worry they'll feel ignored and internalize that issue. Doesn't work out that way. By the way, God, I could go on for half an hour with this one. A lot of my clients are child psychologists, principals, teachers. They want to know the psychology behind that. You know what I tell them? I say, I'll tell you what, after the 3rd or last session, 5th session, when we're done, if you still want to know why, then I'll tell you why. They just never, or sometimes the child psychologists will want to know why you have to ignore tantrums, but rarely. They just get it. They just start to get it because it works. It just works. You ignore the crazy, reward the calm. It's not about feelings and emotions. A tantrum is just a loss of emotional control and not getting what they want, when they want, and how they want it. You don't need to validate that. Okay. Now, if ignoring a tantrum damages your child, you got bigger fish to fry. You got a lot bigger problems than this. Okay. Because if you've got a good relationship with your child, That is not going to affect them in any way, shape, or form at all. But yeah, if that's going to damage your child, you got a lot more to worry about because you got a lot of other stuff to work on. Anyway, so yeah, what's wrong with them feeling ignored when they're acting like a lunatic? What is wrong with that? What on earth is wrong with that? The funny thing is that I've done this with hundreds of kids. I didn't learn much with my own kids. I got respect when they were tiny and sailed right through the teen years, okay? That's what well, I want all of you to do that. But anyway, I learned this I worked with hundreds of kids. I did it with all of them. Do you think one of them didn't respect me for it? No, they just get it. Oh, I get it. I have to be nice with her. I have to be respectful with her. That's all they're thinking. And then they're happier. Their tantrums minimize. They're happier because I focus on the good kid, not the bad behavior. They learn that really quickly. Anyway, I can tell the pool story. The pool story encapsulates everything I feel. Well, there's a lot more to it, but it explains it perfectly. How I deal with children, my own kids, everybody else's kid. This explains it perfectly. Now, I have a history of working with delinquent teenagers too. And this kind of method, it's a little bit different, but it's the exact same idea and you'll get it at the end of the story. Anyways, most of you are probably repeats. You've probably heard this a million times, but this is my favorite story. It's a true story. My son was 8 years old and it was his birthday party. We had a pool in the backyard. So what I did was I invited 5 of his little friends over for a pool party. And I said to them, and it was just me, 1 adult and 6 8-year-old boys. And I'm a safety freak. And the moms who didn't really know me, all the kids I'd worked with, because I was in the school every day helping the teachers. But if the mom didn't know me, she'd kind of be a little bit nervous, right? A pool party, 1 adult. So I said, and then she'd say, well, do you mind if I stay? I said, no, but I don't mind at all. You can stay. But I said, don't talk to me because all I'm doing is counting heads. So I'm not there to socialize. I'm counting heads. Anyway, they all left. It's just me and 6 8-year-old boys. So I said to them, I had a couple rules, but anyway, one of them, I said, no whaley in the pool. Now, whaley was a giant blow-up toy. We didn't have a foot pump to blow it up with. I didn't want to use my lungs again to do it. So I didn't want to deflate him, and I put him way off to the side. And he was gigantic. Now, I could have lost 3 8-year-old boys behind him. I couldn't see behind him. So I said, and I explained that. It's a safety issue. I can't see behind him. It's too dangerous. I'm watching you. So I said, whaley cannot go in the pool. Very clear about that. Anyway, they're in the pool. Sure enough, one of the kids brought Whaley into the pool. And I instantly said, Whaley, out of the pool now. That is not a time to say please. That is just Whaley, out of the pool now. He said to me, no. My son went like this. My son, he knows I know how to take care of business. He was looking forward to the show. Fully clothed, I was in the pool in a shot, and I dragged him out, had him up sitting beside me on the bench. And I said, you're going to sit there for 10 minutes now. And then my son got Whaley out of the pool and the 5 boys were having fun. So I'm counting 5 heads now. This is what I'm doing with that kid who disobeyed me and was very rude to me. I'm talking to him about soccer. I saw him get a goal at soccer. I'm talking to him about school. I'd worked with him on a test at school. And then I talked to him about PlayStation games that he liked. The 10 minutes was up. And I said, okay, you can go back. 10 minutes is up. You can go back in the pool now. Couldn't get rid of him. He wanted to sit and talk to me. He just yabber. He's talking about all the PlayStation games, blah, 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 blah. Now, finally, I kept looking at my son, like, do something here. So my son said we had basketball hoops in the pool. So he said, we're going to have a game of basketball. We need you. And so finally, I got rid of this kid. For the rest of that party, I couldn't get rid of him. Lisa, can I help you with the cake? He was all over me. He was good as gold. Okay, now, there's so many different aspects to that story. But the main takeaway from that is I deal with bad behavior, but I focus on the good kid. I wanted him to feel good about himself and like himself when he's with me. Then I have all the power. I'm the leader. That put me in the leadership role right away. Instantly, I became a leader. And they want to please a leader. He was good as gold for me the rest of the day. Couldn't get rid of him. And the funny part was, I knew him. He was a handful. He had ADHD and a million other alphabets after his name. I called those kids alphabet kids, like so many acronyms after their name. He was a handful. And that's fine, but he was good as gold for me that afternoon. I just had to do one reminder at the very start with that Whaley thing. His mom came to pick him up, and she said something like this. The second he was good as gold all afternoon, you know what she said to him? She said, were you rotten as usual today? Or something like that. And he kicked her in the shin, and off they went. I thought, wow, no wonder why he's like that. You know, I felt so sorry for him. Anyway, that's the pool story. Now, why did I not say, can you please take Whaley out of the pool? It wasn't necessary. That I sound like a wimp. He already knows the rule. He broke it. This is a direct order. It's about safety. Whaley out of the pool now. Very, very clear. I don't yell. I never show anger. I'm just very direct. And then why did I get in the pool fully clothed? You got to take action fast to show me you mean business. I didn't scare the kid. They all knew me. So I picked him up, literally. He was a skinny little kid. I picked him up, then put him right beside me. Then I was very clear. You're going to sit with me for 10 minutes. Why did I not say you're going to sit with me for 10 minutes because of Whaley? Why would I do that? He already knows. Why would I keep rubbing salt in the wound and keep reminding him of what he did wrong? I deal with bad behavior. Now I'm focusing on the good kid. When you build them up and work on their self-esteem and guide them to make good choices, or as I wrote earlier, it's called inspire them to make good decisions. When you do that, when you're the leader and they like themselves when they're with you, they want to please you. He would have been embarrassed to act out with me for the rest of that afternoon. Now he's looking at me not just as a leader, but a friend. He felt great about himself. Also, 10 minutes is up. Go back in the pool, have fun. Why would I not say, don't put Whaley in the pool again? I would have erased all the good work I just did. I would have reminded him, remember when you were rotten? Remember when you were rotten? That's what you're doing. You're rubbing salt. Remember when you were rotten? Yeah, don't be rotten again, because you normally are. I think you probably will be. That's what you're saying. It's nasty. It's bullying. I hate it. So anyway, finally he goes back in the pool. He keeps looking at me. And he's looking at Whaley. He's so proud of himself that he's not getting Whaley in the pool again. So do you get that? Does that make sense? I know it does. I just know it does. But are you with me still? Like, you get that? Okay, how do you gain the respect back if you lost it? Okay, you got to keep watching me. Just keep watching and just keep doing it. So it'll all start to make sense. I've been doing this now I've been on TikTok. Well, I've been teaching this for 17 years in my business. But I've been on TikTok for about a year and a half. And I'll be honest, I blew up overnight. Did not see that coming. My daughter said, Mom, you got to get on TikTok. It's for you. I just blew up overnight. I have no idea. You know how I did that? If you want the secret, it was hilarious. I only talk about this now because they've stopped doing it. But all my competition started bad-mouthing me. And then all their parents came over to me. Every time they do a duet video criticizing me, I get 30,000 new followers in a day. It was hilarious. I was loving it. Yeah, but I mean, I didn't blow up overnight. I've been doing this for 17 years. I just blew up on TikTok overnight. But anyway, so boy, I just think, I love being controversial because I'm shaking things up. The style right now is the please your parents style. It is trash. It's garbage. It's actually a form of bullying because you're raising weak individuals. Weak, self-entitled. Self-entitlement is very weak. Very weak. It's a very weak way to be. I'm such a victim. It's that horrible weak stuff. It's horrible. Have you got different videos to watch? I've got hundreds of videos on here. So anyway, if you go above, you'll see my courses, my coaching, everything's up there. What would you have done if the kid fought you to not get out? I would have got every single other kid out of the pool and we all would have sat there watching them, just waiting. I have a million different methods. It would have worked. I know how to make things work. And I would have been in the pool right beside him. So yeah, there's no way I would have allowed him to stay in that pool at that moment. He was getting out of that pool one way or another. Whaley, I would have deflated Whaley. I would have done whatever it took. But they just don't. My tone of voice, that they just never been argued with before. Like I was shocked when he said no to me because he knew me. But he was so hyped up. He was hyperactive. He was so hyped up that he just lost it. I guess he thought he was talking to his parents or something. But I was surprised he said no to me in the first place because I worked with him a lot. He knew I didn't take any crap. How do you handle a self-entitled child? Well, you just keep doing everything I talk about. Check out, I do have a full course for 3 to 12-year-olds. It's called my boot camp. It teaches you how to get respect in 5 weeks. They're not self-entitled when they have consequences. The whole world is about consequences. If you don't pay your rent, you're kicked out. If you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail. If you speed down the highway, you might get a ticket. So we all live by consequences. Teach that to your children early on. Teach them to respect others, and then they learn to respect themselves. Children who disrespect other people and are snotty and mean and bullies, they have very low self-esteem and they have no self-respect. None. They're in the toilet, just in the toilet. It's a disaster. Okay, Carrie and Chance. Okay. Carrie and Chance. Okay. Thank you for these lives. Finally, someone else feels the way I do. I feel like an alien sometimes. I love feeling like an alien. I'm shaking things up here. I used to do a lot of TV and radio, and you should have seen the hate mail I used to get whenever I talk like this. Ignoring tantrums. Oh, you're not validating their feelings and everything. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know exactly how your kids are going to turn out, because I get those parents down the road as clients. They go, yeah, that was a disaster. Now I'm stuck with this kid who's just a handful. I know exactly where it's going to head, where it's going to go. And by the way, never take parenting advice from someone. There's two criteria, because parenting is all experience-based. You can't learn this. It's all experience-based. You can't learn enough to teach this, is what I mean. Okay, two things. You have to, if you're going to read a book or hire someone for coaching or watch someone about parenting, they have to have these two criteria. One is they have to have finished the job with their own kids. Taking advice from someone with little kids about parenting, they don't know where it's headed. It's like taking financial advice from someone with $10 in the bank. It makes no sense at all. They have to have finished the job. Are their kids adults? Did they sail through it? Are their kids not in jail and they're functioning and supporting themselves? That kind of stuff. They have to have proved that they know what they're doing and they know where everything is headed, because a lot of what works with young ones backfires big time in the teen years. And I know exactly what's going to happen. I just see it all the time. Anyway, the other criteria is they have to not just have raised their own kids, they have to have had experience with hundreds of other kids. I didn't learn a lot with my own kids. They were easy. I got respect when they were tiny and sailed right through the teen years. What did I learn? Really? But I did learn how to live with teenagers and how to adjust your parenting through that, okay? But I worked with hundreds of kids, all different ages, disabilities, teenagers, delinquent teenagers, ADHD, WXYZ. They have to have had that wealth of experience behind them, or else I don't think they should be talking about parenting, because it is the hardest job in the world, and it's also the most responsible and important job in the whole world. So yeah, and then pick someone and go with them, because there might be a whole bunch of other people like me, old and experienced with all this stuff. They just understand kids, but their methods might be a little bit different, but it works together as a package. But if you were to take what you like from me and from someone else who's also very experienced and try and mix them, they might not work. Might be oil and water, right? Everything, like I hate timeout. I can't stand it. But I think it's mean. But if someone else is teaching all their methods, everything else is great, and they can use timeout and that, and it still works, then that's fine. I'm not going to argue that, but I would never use it. I think it's mean. I think it's humiliating. So, but yeah, so you can't pick and choose what you like from different experts. You have to go with one path, because it's meant to be used like a package. It would be like going to different diet centers and picking out what you like from different ones. Are you ever going to lose weight? No, you might even gain weight. Might be a total crap show, right? So yeah, you have to pick a lane. So just watch me or just watch someone else. If you're really struggling and you want to learn how to parent, pick one person and watch them, whether it's me or someone else. Make sure they finish the job and they work with hundreds of kids. Most rewarding job in the world. Actually, it was the most fun I ever had in my whole life. Parenting, I miss it. We just laughed every day. It was fun. I remember we were visiting my mom once, and my kids were, I don't know, 10, something around them. And all her neighbors thought that she was having a party every night. It was just me and my kids at the dinner table. We just laughed all the time, just laugh and laugh, because I got all that pesky discipline out of the way when they were little. I was a very goofy mother. So we just had a blast. It was the most fun I ever had. I had my two little buddies with me all the time. It was a riot. So yeah, parenting's fun. You got to get that leadership respect stuff going. And it's a two-way street. By the way, if I messed up, my kids loved it. They would look at each other like this. And then I'd go, oh, shoot, what do you want? So as soon as I messed up, I knew I was accountable too, right? That's what makes it work. You got a leader walks the walk, right? If you expect them to be responsible and respectful, you have to be too. And plus, I never yelled or anything. I never lost it with my kids. Most parents yell. They yell. You only yell because you don't know what else to do. I didn't need to yell because I was a leader. Leaders don't yell. But you're learning how. All my clients yell. It's very rare when I get clients who don't yell. It throws me off when I'm coaching, and I'll say, "Oh, do you yell?" And I'm ready to write it down. They go, "No," and I'm like, "Oh," it throws me right off. It's that rare that parents don't yell. They only yell because they don't know what else to do. It works in the short term, backfires big time in the long term. Okay, what do I pick for your one-on-one Zoom with you? What one do I pick? If you have little kids, one session is meant for people who've seen me before usually, or people who can't afford more, that's fine. If you're only going to hire me for one session, be prepared to take notes. I'm going to smash as much in as I can. So be prepared to take a lot of notes. It's never as good as, I like the follow-up. 3 sessions is usually good if you're just having sort of the normal things going on. 3 sessions with younger children, 5 sessions with teenagers. And I get people coming back year after year too because their kids get older. All of a sudden, my teenagers are dating. They're talking about having sex. What do I do with that? Now I've been doing this for so many years now. Now I've got my ex-clients' kids coming to me with their kids. And their parents say, just get it all sorted out with Lisa. So yeah. Do teens like family dinners, or would they rather eat at their own time? Depends on the family. Is it a fun family? Funny, or is it controversial? Like, are you doing well in school? And what are you planning on doing with your life? Who wants that, right? Is it fun? No pressure? They usually like it. Are they fun people? I grew up in a very funny household. I used to look forward to family dinners. Yeah, all my cousins in that, they were just so funny. I was adopted, and I remember once I walked in, it was all the cousins were there, and I walked in, and one of my cousins said, "Oh, the fun's stopping. Here's the adopted one." I loved it. Yeah, they were fun. They were very funny. So yeah, is it a fun family, or is there pressure? What are you planning on doing with your life? I heard you got in trouble the other day. God. Ugh. I think I'd rather hang myself than go through that. My kids like family dinners. Yelling is a loss of control. Yelling is just, it's what you do when you don't know what else to do. That's all. Parenting is the hardest job in the world with the least amount of training, and everyone expects you to be an expert, especially you. If you yell, don't beat yourself up. Say, I'm just like everybody else. Maybe I'll learn different. You're only yelling because you don't know what else to do. No one gets a kid in the hospital, a brand new baby, and says, I'm going to mess you up. You're doing the best you know how. Once you know better, you do better, right? Someone famous said that. I think that was Oprah. When you know better, you do better. Something like that. Maya Angelou. She loved Maya Angelou. I don't get it. I don't get poetry. But anyway, so very wise women. There's no instructions with these kids. That's what I am, instructions. Can you share what kind of stuff you would talk about during dinner? Oh, my God. I was just talking to a client the other day, and I started getting self-conscious. Well, one time I went to the dinner table with underpants on my head and pretended I didn't know they were there. And my son said to my daughter, don't say it. Just don't even challenge her. So just be goofy. Just have fun with your kids. Dinner was crazy in our house. Very loud. Yeah, my mom used to always say, you're just so insane with your kids. And she goes, and yet they respect you. They look up to you. How do you do that? And I said, well, because I'm a leader. Leaders are fun. You just get all that pesky discipline out of the way, and then you can relax and be fun. So yeah, I would just turn up with underpants on my head, something like that. And we talked about everything. And there was not a lot of rules at dinner. Like we just sat. They were great kids. They were so easy. But I remember once we had the arm fart competition during dinner, and I mean, we had no class, I guess you could say. Yeah, I remember we had the arm fart competitions a lot at dinner. So yeah, just silly stuff. If you want to have the big talk, I didn't have big talks with my kids. People say that because my kids, we talked about everything, but it was in the car. It was at the dinner table. There was no, let's discuss. It was none of that. It just, things came up all the time. And I talked about everything with my kids. I didn't protect them. I talked about everything. I talked about if they got attacked, what to do. I talked about what someone would say to them to get them in a car, because I know all that stuff, because I've worked with so many abused kids. I know what these creeps say. So nothing was held back with my kids, but it was said all organically. Like we'd just be in the car and I'd see a kid standing at a bus stop and a car would turn up behind. I remember once that happened. A car pulled up at a bus stop and I could just see the kid didn't know that person. And I went right behind the car and honked, and that person took off like a bullet. And that was another conversation, right? Another conversation. So yeah, I just talked about everything organically. I did not hold back with my kids. It didn't scare them. It empowered them. Information is power. Yeah. So yeah. And they trusted me to tell them, to set them right with all this stuff, because they could. And then, by the way, if you're really open with your kids, they'll tell you everything right through the teen years. How are you so wise? I'm old. I'm 63. And I've been doing this now for 52 years. I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11. I always had a lot of maternal instincts in me, and that was sort of my way to do all that. And even the daycare ladies used to say, you're so fun with the kids, but they all respect you. How do you do that? I didn't know how to answer that. Now I do. I'm a leader. A leader is fun, but the kids, they just respect you. They would be embarrassed to act out in front of you because they like themselves so much when they're with you. That is your superpower. It's not about you, it's about getting them to like themselves. When you do this is what I did with the delinquent teenagers I worked with. I got them to like themselves when they were with me. One of them even said, I never liked myself until I met you. That's the biggest compliment I think I ever had. And they told me to start this business. They said, you got to teach this, Lisa. No one talks to us like you do. You make them feel good about themselves. Guide them into making good choices. Inspire them to make good choices, and they will. How did you get your spouse on the same parenting page? He just followed my lead. I was a leader. He didn't want to discipline. I didn't want to messing the kids up. I said, let me do all that. So whenever he took them out alone, when they were little, that when they get older, they just sort of, how do I explain it? It's like when they're about 3.5 to 4 years old, they carry your leadership umbrella everywhere they go. They're so respectful of you, they tend to respect everybody. But when they were really little, they'd try and push their dad around if I wasn't around. You know what he said to me one day? He says, how do I deal with them? He says, what do I do because they're different with me? And I said, just say to them, do you want me to tell mom? Do you want me to tell mom? Use me as leverage. And they'd go, nope, never mind, right away. So we were on the same page, but we were very different. He was the pleaser parent. There usually is. There's usually a leader and a pleaser. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the pleaser has to back up the leader and say, well, let's ask your mom. That's what my dad used to say. My dad was definitely the pleaser. My mom was the leader. And if I was sneaky, I'd go to my dad, can I have that? And he'd say, sure, sweetie, but let's run it by your mom first. And I go, never mind. So I knew they were on the same page. You don't have to have the exact same style. It's kind of nice when they've got that difference, right? But yeah, I didn't want to messing our kids up. I said, don't even try to discipline them. That's my thing. I know what I'm doing. And he loved the kids when they were like, he liked the fact that everywhere he took our kids, he got compliments about their behavior. We used to go to beautiful 5-star restaurants when we were on holidays and that, like when we go and travel. And people would just roll their eyes when they saw us coming in with the kids. And then as we were leaving, people would come up to us and say, gee, your kids are well behaved. Yeah, they were. Yeah, I put the work in. And he backed me up. What coaching would you suggest for 15 months old to avoid bad behavior in the future? Okay, 15 months. So you have a 15-month-old and you want to sort of get started on the right foot. I would suggest just do one session, see how you go. If you want more, you can upgrade to, I'll just send you a separate invoice to upgrade to 3 sessions if you want more. But yeah, just try one session with a 15-month-old. I can cover a lot, but take notes. Seriously, take notes. Okay, how to handle picky eaters. I can't talk about that because I'm not a nutritionist, so I don't talk about diet, but I'll tell you what I did with my kids. Okay, you're not gonna like it though, I'm pretty radical. Now, and I'm 63, I'm a gluten-free health food vegan. And so yeah, I'm pretty radical, but I wasn't like that as much when my kids were little, but I was very into healthy food. So we never had any junk food in the house at all. So when my kids were little, they knew that they had the choice between broccoli and they only had the healthy food options. So I did bake a lot of cakes. I made all my own bread. I made everything from scratch. There was no packaged food in our house. We just had ingredients. So the kids, they were picky. My son was especially, but all he had to choose from was healthy food. So if they know that you've got ice cream in the freezer, they might be even pickier. If my son thought he had potato chips in the pantry, he might not have eaten as healthy. So yeah, that was just my choice. It was the way I did it. I did make a lot of cakes and that, but my cakes were full of, really looking back, they were just sawdust. There wasn't much sugar or anything in there. It was a lot of, they were very different. My kids would go to other people's houses. Gee, their cakes and cookies are weird. Mine were. They were filled with, I can puree spinach and put it in anything. The first time my son went out to birthday party, when they went out, I said, have at it, eat whatever you want. They always came home with stomach aches, of course. And because they weren't used to all that sugar and garbage, right? So anyway, my son came home, he'd had pizza at some birthday party or something. And he goes, it was really weird because, well, for one thing, it was bought. So it wasn't homemade. When they were really little, it was all homemade. Anyway, and he said, the sauce was red. Well, my sauce was brown because I had pureed spinach into it. So they thought everyone else cooked weird. And then they learned as they got older. I was the weird one. So yeah, I just made sure there was no crap in the house. So all they had choices that was healthy stuff. Plus, I didn't want mealtime to be a battle. To me, mealtime should be fun. Like I grew up, we had fun at the table. It was a happy time. So I never pushed food, but I just said, well, here's your healthy food or nothing. And that was about it. But I cooked around their taste buds. Like I knew they liked certain things, but every night they had to have 3 vegetables. Every day they had to have 1 fruit and 3 vegetables. That was my rule. So, but they could pick them, like not every single day, but they could pick from on a raw. Like I cooked around what I knew they liked. Pretty much every night we had carrots, broccoli, and cauliflower. Pretty much every single night. And then I put cheese sauce on it, but it was my homemade cheese sauce, which was full of all sorts of wheat germ and all sorts of stuff in there. Okay. 3-year-old who spits, behavior board not working, media blackout not working, he doesn't get it. Okay, you might want to hire me. It does work, but it's just, you're just missing something. Something's going on there. You're not getting to him. We have to figure that out. If you want my help with that, you'd have to hire me. The behavior board is a free thing I put up there. I use it with all my clients. And I always say to them when they hire me, we do the first half hour of the session, of the first session, we do a behavior board. I learn a lot about you when we do it, by the way. So it's about 30 minutes. The next 30 minutes is how you make it work. That's the coaching. So if you want to hire me for that, then check out the link above. But yeah, tons of people use the behavior board and it works. But of course, it's not going to work for everybody because there's a lot more to it, right? Depends on what you're dealing with. A lot of it is tone of voice, body language. Oh, someone just wrote down tone and body language matters. Yeah, it does. So they probably know, your child probably knows that you're an empty threatener, right? Have you empty threaded before? And they know that. So yeah, you have to sort of teach them. You have to come up with more creative ways of showing them things are changing. Consistency is everything, everything. If you do something 9 times out of 10, they're going to remember the one time you messed up. I wrote something about that. What did I write? I wrote that down. I wrote it down. I had it. I don't know where I put it. Anyway, they always remember what your mistakes you made. And it was funny. My son was a teenager and he goes, he was rambling off all these stupid things I'd done. I said, what about all the great stuff I've done as a mother? And he went, what? So he was laughing at me, rambling off all the dumb things I've done. But yeah, they always remember your mistakes. They're very good at that because the mistakes work for them. The mistakes work in their favor. That's why they remember them. So yeah, you've got to be consistent, 100%. If you're going to put something on that behavior board, you better make it work. Like, and what I mean, it doesn't mean they're going to stop spitting. It means you're going to follow through with the disciplines, with the consequences. You have to make it work from your parenting perspective. Remember, we're not fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching parents. So once your kids understand that you are changing, you do know what you're doing, then they do tend to toe the line. But it's work. It's hard work. Really hard work. Especially if you weren't a leader before. I kind of eased into it because I had a lot of experience with kids. So I never really struggled with that. But if you were struggling, the kids remember your past struggles and it's going to be harder. So we got to, work a little bit harder to get that respect. Getting respect is hard work. Maintaining it's a piece of cake. What's the behavior board? The behavior board's free up above. It's in a link. And what it is, it's just a board. You do just buy one of those poster boards at the dollar store. And you have 3 sections, really only two. Rules and consequences. And then the last one is the motto, like we respect ourselves and others. That's just the gentle, pointy reminder, but no one ever uses that. But anyway, so the rule for everybody, mom, dad, everybody is on there. You all have a rule. Your rule is usually no yelling. If you yell, you always put no yelling. If your kids hit, you always put no hitting. If they hit other people, that's always what you start with. And then the consequences go underneath that. So if you yell, your consequence would be you have to play hide and seek for 10 minutes. Something like that. Something for the kids because you yelled, that was mean. Now you have to do something nice with them. Do they get upset that playing with them is your punishment? I've been doing this for 17 years. Not one kid has ever been upset about the parents playing hide and seek with them. Not one. They've never been offended that it's a punishment. Not one kid. Parents often say, but should that be a punishment? Wouldn't they be insulted by that? Never happened in 17 years. So they're just thrilled that you're playing hide and seek. So anyway, and then the kids have 2 consequences. There's a positive action. If you can't get them to do that, then you go to the negative deprivation, which is something like 24-hour media blackout. Too many parents just get all confused by that. But yeah, like I said, in coaching, the first 30 minutes, we make up a behavior board. Then the next 30 minutes, we discuss how you make it work. That's the hard part, making it work. Because a lot of parents are set in their habits and their bad habits. So, and then they say, I was really good all week, but then on the weekend, we just decided to relax. And I'm like, oh, geez, it don't work. Sometimes I'll say, well, if you're selling that behavior board, show me how you talk about it. And they'll do something and they'll say, oh, that's why. That's what you're doing wrong. There's just certain things that it's just nuances too with kids. One of the things, I do a lot of role playing with parents. So we will role play. And I'll say, this is what you say and this is how you say it. So then I'll show them how you do it. And then I'll say, now you do it. And it's very hard for them to do. By about the third time, they start to get it. You can see it. They sit taller. They start to feel more empowered. It's quite interesting because when you're disciplining children, it's all business. There's no anger. I'm very soft-spoken. I get very quiet when I'm disciplining. My son used to say, if my mom ever whispers, run, because that's when I'm disciplining. I'd say, tell you what, I didn't like that. Here's what we're going to do. Do you understand? That's how I discipline. And then I forget it. Then we go off and play. Yeah, it's like a business transaction. There are no emotions in disciplining. None. And I was a crazy mother, but I'll tell you, like, I was loud, it was funny, we goofed around all the time. But when I was disciplining, it was all business. Very quiet, very serious. So, but anyway, it's all about, and this is what, remember the behavior board, remember the rule. Okay, so you broke the rule. So let's check out the consequence here. Don't berate them on it. This is what a lot of parents do. Now you broke the rule. You shouldn't have broken the rule. You know, you shouldn't have, it's that they use it as a way to get their own anger out. When you bring anger into the behavior board, it's going to tank, guaranteed. Guaranteed it's going to tank. You have to treat it like a calm business trend. You should see parents when they talk, when they get back to me. Usually by the third session, they're like, I'm doing it. I get it. I get it. It's hard because you have to change yourself. Remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents. They will follow. You lead, they will follow. They just will. It's just the way it is. Should a parent ask the child to do something which is something they're supposed to do or tell? I don't get what you mean. Give me an example. Oh, you're a grandma. You asking? I don't give grandma advice. I only give parenting advice. Well, I'm just gonna interpret this my way. You might mean it this way. I'm just gonna interpret it. Is should you remind them? Let's say they didn't do their chores. Should you remind them? Like nag them, in other words? And who's responsible for chores? Once they understand their chores, if they don't do them, say, okay, well, your chores weren't done yesterday, so here's the consequence. I forgot. Well, you'll know next time, won't you? But you're still doing the consequence. You forgot to make your bed, so tomorrow morning you're going to make your bed, and you're also going to make mine. Do you understand? If they don't make it, when they're little, you do remind them. Remember, tomorrow you're going to make the bed, so you're going to do it within 10 minutes or whatever. Use timers and everything too, and get all organized with all that stuff. So you have to look like you know what you're doing. But we never care what the kids are doing. When you're starting with that behavior board, I could care less what the kids do. I only care what you do. Are you following through with the consequences? Are you staying calm? Are you not worrying about everything else that you're struggling with because you're only focused on that one rule? That's really important too. We start with one rule at a time. It's like when you're learning how to fly, the instructor doesn't teach you everything. He teaches you maybe 1 or 2 dials per lesson per week, right? And then you don't at the end of that first session say, can I fly now? It's like that with this behavior board. You are learning how to lead. So you start with 1 rule per week. You master that. By the time you get to the 3rd week, that you've got 3 behavior boards now, you only go to 3. When you get to the 3rd week, you are starting to learn how to lead, and the kids are starting to follow. They're starting to get it. That's where the magic happens. Not always, depends on how well you're doing. It's all on you. It's all up to you. Is it hard? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. You should see the stuff I get from parents. Like, it's just amazing. They say, oh my God, I was crying and it was hell. I never thought I'd get anywhere. And now I just get it. Every meal time's a joy. Every bedtime's a joy. They just get it. Anyone can do it. Like asking a child the first time to put their belongings away is telling them they have to. I don't do any of that. No. Kids just sort of understand what their chores are, and then it's on them. But you got to set up systems, make it easy for them. But then if it's not done, they learn very quickly by consequences. Say, you forgot to do your chores. But if they're sick, obviously you don't have them do chores. But you know what I mean? If they have time and they're goofing around, they just don't get around to their chores. And they might forget. I don't care about that, though. They might forget. If they're 5 and over, if they forget, you just say, okay, well, you forgot to do your chores before school this morning as you're supposed to. So tonight there's no media or something. You just follow through. They learn. Not fair, I forgot. Well, you'll know next time, won't you? They learn. As calm as anything. But when they're in the doghouse, they're never really in the doghouse, but look, they think of it that way. So when they get no TV that night, you don't watch TV either. You don't sit there looking at your phone. Oh, this is great. You play games with them. That's your time to bond with them. If your kids have media blackout, that is a great opportunity to bond with them. Let's say you've got a 9-year-old who has media blackout for 24 hours because they did something, hit someone or something. And then you say to them, okay, well, you got media blackout. I'm going to do it with you. How about we play a game? No, I hate you. I hate you. I'd say, fine, okay, whatever. And then when they calm down an hour later, you ready for that game yet? See, you're always trying to connect with them. This is more about connecting than discipline. Discipline is just a part of it. Everyone wants to talk about discipline, but that's not what I do, really. I teach parents how to connect with their kids as a leader. And once you do that, there is no need to discipline because they'd be embarrassed to act out with a leader. They just are. If my kids ever did anything that, like, they were late or something or kept me waiting, they apologized to me. And they would say, oh, how about no TV tonight? I'd say, that's too much. Just brush my hair for 5 minutes. I love having my hair brushed. Okay. What are some great habits to start teaching a toddler? You don't. Yeah, you don't really. I'm going to read. I mean, you sort of do, but yeah, I wouldn't talk like that. Like with toddlers, you're not really teaching toddlers much. You're interacting and bonding with toddlers. That's what you're doing, and they're watching you. But if they do something naughty, then you correct it, and it's consistent corrective actions. Okay, I'm going to read the top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is, and toddler is under 3, by the way, under the age of 3. 3 and 4 is preschool. 5 and up is kid. 9, tween. 13, teenager. Okay, number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is you get a toy rotation system going so they're never bored. I got lots of videos on toy rotation systems. Number 3 is you connect with your kids by entering their world. So you don't connect with them at the nail salon. If you've got a 3-year-old, you go to the park and roll down the hill with them. You connect with them in their world. Play with them a lot in their world. You don't just go to the park and sit and watch them. You get on the swing with them. Okay, so, and then number 4 is when you're disciplining your toddler, stop with the mini therapy sessions. It's garbage. You know, your feelings and our feelings, it's just garbage. They're 2 years old. They don't need a mini therapy session. They don't want to lay on a couch and discuss all their feelings and emotions. That's for you. That whole style, the please your parent style, that was invented to feed the mom's needs. It has nothing to do with the toddlers. It's all about the mom. Nothing whatsoever to do with toddlers. Okay. So mini therapy sessions stop that. If they do something naughty, it's consistent corrective actions. You hit the dog, now I'm going to take your toy away, or you can't play with the dog for the rest of the day. You know, stuff like that. Consistent corrective actions right in the moment because they learn through repetition. They're not listening, they're watching. It's all about actions with toddlers. And number 5 with toddlers, stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They haven't formed yet. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed up in there. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and for the first year you were just a potato laying on a mattress. You haven't formed yet. Don't try and figure them out. They're not figure-outable. Some of them might even stick their hands down their pants and smear poop on the wall. To them, that might seem completely normal, okay? You want to figure that one out? I can't. Yuck. So anyway. May you do preschool too, please. So preschoolers is 3 and 4-year-olds. Then you can start using the behavior board. That starts at the age of 3. They can start to learn how they can stop and think before they act. That is the cognition, just sort of the frontal lobe is starting to develop at that point. They can start to think before they act. So before they do something, they can stop and think, and they can stop themselves. You teach them that by using the behavior board. Your rule is put your boots in the cubby when you come in. That could be something that simple. Remember, and then when you're in the car before you get home, remember to put your boots in the cubby. You can remind them when they're 3 to do that. But then when they're there and they've got their boots and you know they should be doing it, I wouldn't remind them then because I don't repeat myself. Okay. You're awesome. Have you wrote a book? No, I've never written. I hate writing. One day I think I'll write a book. I don't know. I got a bunch of courses out there. Writing a book sounds like I think someone would have to hire me. I've been approached a couple times about that. I just never worked out. By a big, huge publishing house once too. But they approach a lot of people and it just wasn't the right timing. So maybe one day. I don't know. Okay. I work with families who are involved in CPS. That's Child Protective Services. I give them homework to watch your videos. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's the biggest compliment. How sweet. Oh, thanks so much for that. Yeah, I work with a lot of damaged kids. And yeah. And you know what? It's funny because I used to judge the parents before I started my business. And once I started working with the parents who, were really had done some pretty bad things to their kids, I realized they were damaged themselves. They do the best they know how. So it's challenging. So I had to mother them more than anything, right? It's rough. Don't judge other people unless you've walked a mile in their shoes. And even then. How much should I play with a toddler? She's becoming more independent, 14 months. Well, I don't know. There is no time on that. And they're all different. My son was extremely good at independent play. My daughter was Velcro. Couldn't get rid of her. She was always all over me. She wanted to be with me at all times. But my son wanted me nearby. I don't like playrooms. I never understand why people build playrooms. I like a rec room for teenagers. That's different. That's when they need to be away from you. But when my kids were little, I wanted them at my feet. I wanted them right there. So that I was always interacting with them. Their language skills were evidently really good. Although it was hard, it was kind of hard because I lived in Australia and they had Canadian accents because I talked to them all day. So the teachers couldn't even understand them because they're hard to understand when they're little anyway, but when they've got an accent. So that was kind of bad for them. But yeah, I was always interacting with them. I don't like playrooms. It's like you go in there, I don't even want to be around you. I don't understand playrooms. Plus, there's too much stuff there. It's overwhelming. No, I wanted my kids around me all the time. So yeah, so we were kind of always interacting. I was always talking to them. But also, if they were getting on my nerves as they got older, because they were, and I was trying to get dinner on it, and I'd just say scram, and they just would, they'd laugh and they'd just leave the room. So because I was so connected with them that when I did tell them to scram, I got dinner to get on the go, they would just laugh and run away. It was no big deal. Yelling is the quickest way to make kids upset. It actually gives them an exact reason to listen. Yelling is the quickest way to make kids upset. Actually gives them an exact reason not to listen. Okay. Yeah, yelling is just a sign you're out of control. Leaders don't yell. Like I never yelled. I yelled once, and really I was yelling at the garbage when I look back at this. My son was 12, was taking out the garbage, and it fell. And I'm very fussy, like unbelievably fussy. I'm not OCD, but I'm borderline. But I never put that on my kids. I never ever. When they cleaned, it was just minimal. Like I didn't expect too much. Then I went in after and did my own touch. Anyway, he was taking out the garbage and he dropped it by accident, and I yelled. And he'd never been yelled at. He was 12. He turned beet white. For about 10 years after that, he said it was the most traumatic experience of his whole life. All I did was yell that he dropped the garbage. I think I yelled, "What a stupid thing to do. I told you to pick it up by the bins, not the lid." And I almost yelled. It wasn't a scream. Like I'd never yelled before. I was never yelled at. Anyway, he turned beet white and went in his room, and I felt horrible. So I went in his room and I said, "I'm really sorry." I said, "I completely messed up. It wasn't your fault. You were trying to be nice and everything." Anyway, so I bought him a brand new PlayStation game. So he felt better after that. And then he still, for 10 years, said it was the most traumatic experience. Now, if that's the most traumatic experience of your whole life, I think what I said to him was, "Suck it up, princess." Anyway, yeah, I didn't get a lot of sympathy because I had to put out $80 for a new PlayStation game because I felt bad, right? That was the only time I ever yelled. Leaders don't yell. You don't need to. And yelling always backfires. Yellers raise yellers. That's why I never yelled. I was never yelled at. So yellers raise yellers, and it will bite you in the butt down the road. Guaranteed. So funny regards, Grover off Elmo. Oh, scram. Yeah, my mom used to say scram. If she was busy in the kitchen, I was right there. She'd go, "Scram, I'm busy." And then we had a little nook there, and then she'd throw some dough at me. If she was baking, she'd throw some dough my way, and I'd bake a little cake, and So, yeah. But if you know you're loved and everything, there's nothing wrong with telling your kids to scram. Someone said, "Oh, that's so mean." I'll bet you any money the person who said that yells at their kids. Do you know what I mean? Because the pleaser parent they're almost all yellers. That's the funny thing. They're always, "Oh, you should validate all their feelings," but they're almost always yellers, which is interesting. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. That's what I've seen. Because a lot of them become my clients. So toddler demanding snacks. Well, I don't like the word demanding. So they're in charge. Toddler wants snacks constantly and not eating a lot of meals. Is that okay? You give them really light snacks and they will learn. They'll eventually learn. Cut it up into really small pieces. It takes them longer to eat. And then just you sort of have to train them into that. Because I believe that I'm a grazer. I don't like meals. I never did. But you have to sort of get along in family life, right? So, but yeah, they will eventually learn. But they're really little. Toddlers don't eat nearly as much as you think they need. I remember how, and they go in waves. They're like teenagers. They go through gigantic growth spurts, and so do babies. They go through these huge growth spurts, just like teenagers. Like they won't eat much for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden they'll go through another few weeks where they just eat you out of house and home. Especially teenagers. Geez, I used to call it the Costco cupboard. And it was a whole room, like a big pan down just off the rec room. And it was just full of Costco stuff when my son was a teenager. Oh my God. And then I'd stock up, and then he wouldn't eat much for about a week or two, but then he'd eat it. I could never figure it out. It's actually a way to teach sense of humor. My mom used to say, if you don't know how to laugh, I feel sorry for you. I was raised with a lot of humor, and you had to learn how to laugh at yourself. And actually, it was kind of a funny story. I was speaking to a school years ago, and there were about 600 people in the audience, and they kept commenting about my humor. I use a lot of humor when I'm doing public speaking, and I don't public speak anymore. I used to do a lot of it. I don't do in-person stuff anymore. I'm just online now. Anyway, so I was talking about how they said, Oh, well, I just love how you make fun of yourself. I said, yeah, and I meant to say I'm very into self-deprecating humor. But instead of deprecating, I said the other word that sounds just like it. And I didn't realize it. And they all just like stopped talking. And then they realized, they all just froze. And then they realized I didn't realize what I'd said. And then someone had to yell out. They used it. They were very descriptive in how they explained what I'd actually said. It was hilarious. So yeah, I got to be very careful whenever I say self-deprecating humor. Do you travel for coaching sessions or no, it's all done on Zoom. It's all online. I think I did a few in-persons when I first started my business like 17, 18 years ago. I used to do the audience, but it's never any good. There's no benefit to doing that. But I do always want to see you because body language is huge. I'll be watching you more than I'll be listening to you because I'm looking for strengths and weaknesses because it changes. Every parent is different. So coaching, it's personal, and I'll be watching you. It was funny. I was working with this one client, and I have several screens, and I was talking to them like here, and then I'm often looking over writing notes, right? And this one time, this client said something, and it was so little, they wouldn't have thought, and I went like this. They said something, and boy, did I feed off that one little sentence they said, which seemingly had no meaning at all. And they said, what did I say? And I said, this is why I'm looking at you. Can you say that again? I want to watch you when you say it. It was hilarious. They scared the bejeebies out of them. I wanted to see their body language when they said that sentence again. I won't tell you what it was, but it was funny. It was seemingly nothing, but I picked up on something. I picked up on their voice when they said it, and I wanted to see their body language. So I love body language. I study it like crazy. It just helps me because I need to know your strengths and weaknesses. We don't always know what we feel. That's the thing is they say, well, we're not lying. And I say, no, but you don't always know what you feel. You don't always know your own strengths and weaknesses, right? We're all like that. So that's up to me to figure it out. Like if I think you're going to really struggle with something, I might go a little bit easier on you. Oh, your daughter asks over and over how much you love her. How old is she? I need to know. Is she 16, 6, 2? I need to know the age. And it's my understanding, I think she's just doing that for attention. Do you give her enough attention? Do you play with her? I said, play with your kids. You got to connect with your kids. My leadership was all about connecting with kids. It really had nothing to do with discipline. Discipline is tiny. It's a very tiny part. It's like everything I do with kids. When I was mentoring troubled teens, I had no leverage. I couldn't discipline them. How do you think I got such great behavior with them? How do you think I got respect with troubled teens? I'm good at connecting with kids. I'm good at making them feel good about themselves. They used to say to me, they'd never liked themselves until they'd met me. One of them said that. I never liked myself until I met you. That is everything. When you get good at making kids feel good about themselves, they'll jump through hoops to please you. Not because you don't want obedient little soldiers, but they do need a leader. If you're not a leader for your children, they're going to be very vulnerable out in the world. They're going to be susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to go searching for a leader because they don't have one at home. When they have one at home, they're not susceptible to anything, not peer pressure or anything, right through the teen years, because they have that leader at home they can tell anything to, and you're a safe place to land. And they'll tell you everything right through the teen years when you get good at this. It's power. Leadership is power. They need you. They need you to be a leader. You're not telling them what to do. I never told my kids what to do. Neither did my mother. I'd say, Mom, what should I do? She always said, I don't know. You're a smart girl. You can figure it out. And then we'd talk about it. And I thought I was coming up with all my own solutions, but she was guiding me along the way, but never really told me what to do. Never. I didn't with my kids either. It's interesting. I get asked this quite a bit because I'm a parenting coach and I've got my granddaughter due, my very first grandchild due in a couple months. And it's my son's child. And people say, are you going to tell your son how to parent? And I'm like, why would I do that? What a mean thing to do. Like judge him and criticize him and tell him what he should be doing? No. If he comes to me for advice, I might discuss it with him, but he already knows how I parented. And they both said when they were growing up, certainly they said they were going to try and parent the way I did. We'll see. They'll have their own style. Why would I tell my kid? Why would I do that to my son? I want to watch him parent, and if he wants some advice, they'll have to ask. I'm not going to give them I don't give unsolicited advice. You're here asking for it because you're soliciting it when you turn up. But yeah, I would not. I wouldn't do that. None of my business. I'm just there to be the grandmother. Wish I knew you when I was a teenager. Yeah, they're my favorite age. I love teenagers. How do I become a leader for my daughter? Well, you can check out my course. That's a 5-week course called the Boot Camp, and it teaches you how to be a leader. It takes 5 weeks. Check that out if you're interested. Or else just keep watching. I'm on here every day. What else did I want to talk about? Just a second. Oh, there it is. I was looking for something earlier, and it's right there. Anyway, okay, I'm going to read out something. This is just really important for everybody to know. For adults too. It's not just about parenting, but this is it's a lost art, or I don't even know if it ever was one. It's how to apologize, and it's part of being accountable. So here's how you apologize. There's 4 steps to it, and it's funny. My son's very funny, and I used to say to him, "I'm very good at." I used to say, "I'm really good at apologizing," and he said, "That's because you've had so much practice." I am. I'm very good at apologizing. Apologizing has 4 steps. You do this with your kids, with adults. You teach your spouse to do this with you too. It's very important to learn how to apologize effectively. The word sorry is overused. It's even used in courtrooms, and it's like, okay, you murdered the whole family, you can go. It's almost like a get out of jail free card. The word sorry means nothing to me. It's just a word. You gotta back it up with other stuff. Okay, so here's the 4 steps to apologizing effectively, to respect the person that you've hurt in some way. So step 1 is say you're sorry just to start the ball rolling. I really don't care about it. It's just to show you're starting this apology. The second one is take full responsibility and accountability for what you did. Don't say, I'm sorry I yelled, but I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't done that. You're blaming the other person for it. So say, I shouldn't have yelled. I just can't believe I did that. I was just rotten in that moment. I'm really sorry about that. The third step is really important. Say, what can I do to make it up to you? You make amends. So like when I yelled when he dropped the garbage, it's the only time he'd ever heard me yell, and he was mortified. I just upset the heck out of him. And then I bought him a PlayStation game. So and then he kept trying, every time he'd take out the garbage after that, he'd go like this, whoa, 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 trying to get a PlayStation game out of me. Anyway, so make amends. So say you're sorry, it was all my fault, and what can I do to make it up to you? And then offer something. And then the last one is don't keep doing it. If you keep doing the same mistake all the time, then you never were sorry anyway. So anyway, so that's the 4 steps. I'm sorry, it was all my fault. What can I do to make it up to you? And then stop doing it. Don't keep doing it over and over again. People use that word. I said, what I hate is when someone has kept me wait. I hate being kept waiting. I think it's so disrespectful. And I just am never late. If I am, I've probably been in an accident or something. Anyway, so they keep you waiting. Let's say back in the day before we had cell phones, I had a friend who was just chronically late all the time, no consideration for others. So anyway, and then she'd say, oh, sorry. And then you were just supposed to say, that's okay. And then forget about it. That's it. They say one word. They keep you waiting in the rain for half an hour to an hour. Then they say, sorry. And then it's all forgotten. I always felt so disrespected. Does that make sense? Anyway, so yeah, the word sorry is so overused. And they tend to flip it around. If you don't say, that's okay, then they go, well, you're not very forgiving. They flip it around. It's your fault now. So it's not that they did something bad. It's that you're not very forgiving. All they said was sorry, one word. It doesn't make up for everything. That's ridiculous. Where's the process? Where's the making amends? Where's the taking responsibility? Where's the, being late is not a huge deal, but you get what I'm saying. So yeah, be accountable. Show remorse. Make it up to the person. Oh, okay. This was in response. I wrote down, sometimes people write really interesting things, so I'll write them down. This was from Christina on TikTok, because I was talking about how you don't want to raise self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues by being the pleaser parent and trying to make everything fun for your kids, rolling out the red carpet. If the teacher looks at them the wrong way, you go in and tell the teacher off and try and get her fired, all that stuff. So anyway, Christina said, adulting isn't all about fun. Kids have to learn that contributing and doing chores is normal, builds character and resilience. Yes, they've got to learn. They got to do the hard stuff. You're not going to be rolling out the red carpet and trying to make their life easy for them. That's actually a very mean thing to do, because the world is not easy. You want to show them that the world is difficult, but you want to have a lovely home life. You want to be a safe place to land. They come home, everything's wonderful. But when you send them out in the world, don't expect the world to conform to them. That's what you're doing when you are the pleaser parent. You expect the world to conform to your children. You want the children to learn how to manage in the world, not necessarily conform to everything, but manage. I read this recently, and it was a scientist, and he said that they're always learning new things about how we form. And he said the first 7 years are the formative years. That's when you actually form. You form who you are in the first 7 years. And he said it's not done through words. And I've always said this. It's body language and it's actions. And he said they learn through observations. They're not listening to you. They're watching you. And I could not agree more. I've been saying that for a long time. They're watching you. That's why a leader is accountable. They don't yell, and you're accountable. They're watching you. Okay. You you do what you want them to do. So yeah, he said they don't learn through words. He said it's a tiny part of it. He said, but it's all through observation. They're watching. It's like when kids say, if they grow up seeing abuse in the home and alcoholism and everything in the first 7 years, no matter what you say, never drink, and parents will do, never drink, never smoke. You see how bad it is. They're not listening. They're going to do it anyway. It's had an impression on them. They won't necessarily do it, but they're much more likely to do those things because you did it, because they're watching you. So be careful. What to do when another parent always has aggressive tone and expressive anger when talking? Well, I can't tell you how to tell someone else how to parent. You see what I mean? I can't do that. So yeah, but that comes up a lot in coaching. I'll often get hired by people and there'll be one sitting forward like this and the other one in the background like this. And I'm like, gee, I wonder who wanted to hire me. So they usually get on board. What happens is once they see, and I'll just say, look, if you don't want to be a part of this, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to put up with that, this kind of tone. I'll say, look, why don't you just leave if you're not interested, because you're not going to take anything in anyway, and your spouse will be more. It'd be easier to work together with your spouse if you're not here. So they often will just leave. And then what happens is I've actually been hired on the side by that parent who left the room. Do you know why? After a few weeks, they see that the parent who stayed is a leader and becoming more popular and closer to the kids. And the kids go to the leader they're more drawn to the leader. And then the other parent wants a part of that. They want that. But they don't want the other parent to know that they've hired me on the side. So yeah, that happens. It's interesting. What are your top things you absolutely avoided when parenting a toddler? Mine is 2.5. I don't know how to answer that. I can't think. I don't know. I was never focused on what not to do. I was focused on what to do because I wasn't a yeller or anything. So yeah, I was always focused on what to, but I don't know. I had so much experience with kids that I just knew they're going to do stupid stuff. Toddlers are crazy. And it's not about words with them. It's consistent corrective actions with toddlers. So I had a lot of experience. So I would have to go back and think. And I never had to think what not to do. I just was focused on what to do. Does that make sense? So what happens in the first 7 years is very critical to a lot of their future. It is. It's not the only thing. Like they can still, I've worked with a lot of abused kids. So there's still hope. Most kids I worked with had a lot of problems, right? No one ever said, here's an easy one, Lisa. They always said, good luck with this one. Like a lot of them came from really troubled backgrounds. So it is repairable, but it's a lot of work and they really need a strong leader to pull them out of that. So if there was stuff that sort of damaged them in some way, they can still recover, but it takes a strong leader. Like you look at Tony Robbins, he, I'm not a huge fan of his in one way or the other, but he's a smart guy. He's figured a lot of stuff out. He had a horrible upbringing. His mother was very abusive and alcoholic. And he didn't have a dad around, I don't think. I'm pretty sure he didn't. Anyway, he overcame all that. Became a very good person, evidently. I don't know. I knew someone who worked with him and said he actually is a nice guy. So he overcame all that, but he did that himself. Like that's really impressive. But I think he did have some mentors along the way. So it is recoverable, but it's harder to do. There is some work involved, but he did that himself. That's because I worked with so many abused kids that's why I'm so impressed with him that he brought himself out of that. Yeah, interesting. When a child does bad choice, so they break a rule, is it okay to walk away to calm? No. You're avoiding it. Yeah, no, I would never do that. Never. Makes you look weak. Leaders would never walk away. Leaders go into the storm, not away from it. Yeah, it's like never be afraid of a scene, a fit, or a tantrum. If a kid has a fit or a scene or a tantrum with me, this is me. It's like, oh, it's an opportunity to exercise my leadership. It's an opportunity. So whenever they do something bad, that's your opportunity to exercise your leadership. And if they don't, if you're not used to being a leader, they will probably kick up a really big storm when you come in with some discipline. And that's good. The bigger the storm, the bigger the lesson. You can't be afraid of your kids. What's an appropriate consequence for forgetting to do something on the behavior board? Well, let's say you put down follow chore chart as a rule on the behavior board. Then you could put, geez, I've been on here for a long time. I couldn't figure out why my mouth was dry. It's because I've been on here for an hour and 20 minutes. Anyway, so yeah, my mouth's really dry. Just a sec. Oh, what was the question? Oh yeah. So you fall, let's say they're 8 years old. It depends on the age. When they're 3, you got a little bit more reminder, but you remind them before, but you don't remind them when they're not doing it. How do I explain that? Let's say you say, okay, you have to make your bed in 10 minutes, so it starts now. Then you don't keep reminding them. You've already told them. But let's say they're 8 years old and the follow school morning routine. That's a good one. There's 3 things that are my favorite things to work with because they're really easy to do: bedtime battles, mealtime battles, and school morning routines. Those are 3 because they're regimented, they happen all the time, and they're systematic. So I love all those. Anyway, school morning routine's a really good one. So you've got an 8-year-old and you have a follow school morning routine. And then on a separate piece of paper near the behavior board, you put down get dressed, eat breakfast, brush your teeth, pack your school bag, put it by the front door. Something like that. And if they don't do it and they're not all ready, you don't say anything that morning. You say after school, or you might say in the morning on the way to school, say, by the way, the school morning routine wasn't followed, so we'll discuss it later. Don't discuss it on the way to school. Or you might just wait till after school, and then on the way home, you say, by the way, the school morning routine didn't work out, did it? So remember the consequence, blah, blah, blah. So that's how you do it. Okay, consequence for hitting, I'm gonna have to go after this one question. Consequence for hitting other kids, almost 4 years old. I do have a course on that if you're interested, it's in the link above. And hitting is one, you always put that on the behavior board. And if they hit someone, the younger kid especially, they have to give their favorite toy to the younger kid to play with for half an hour. You play with that younger kid and the older one can't join in. Okay, so you play with that younger kid. It could just be 10 minutes. So you do something mean to someone, you have to do something nice. They get to play with their favorite toy. That's a really popular one with clients. They say, boy, they hate that one. It's a good one. It's one that you can't always do this, but that's one that the punishment fits the crime. Hey, you hit your little brother, he gets your favorite toy for the next day or whatever, something like that. Anyway, I got to get going. If you go on the link above, you can get my free behavior board, buy one of my courses, or hire me for coaching. All coaching is done on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where in the world you live. And you know what's fun about coaching people all around the world is oftentimes I do have to adjust my methods for different religions and cultures. And it's been really challenging for me, as you can imagine, but I have to understand different cultures. I've learned so much about the world through coaching because and I respect that. Different religions, they just certain things that, the dad is the head of the household, and this all, and I have to respect that. Wouldn't I be an idiot if I just said, no, you have to do it the North American way? Like, wouldn't that be stupid? So I've learned so much about the world. It's just fantastic. So anyway, I got to go. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back. Did anyone see my son yesterday? He turned up on the live. I was helping him move. And I was just trying to do like 10 minutes of a live because I have them scheduled every Saturday morning. Did anyone here see him yesterday? He didn't know he was going to be on the live. Poor guy, he just walks in the room and it was my son. It was funny. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow. Bye now.